Kingdoms rise and empires crumble, and the knowledge and wisdom from past ages are lost to the foggy ruins of time. But for genuine seekers of truth, one place stands alone on a hill, shining brightly in the darkness. You, dear listener, have reached the Hidden Citadel.
Welcome to the Hidden Citadel. We are your hosts, a loud two.
Because we are allowed to.
Yes, I'm Willie.
And I'm Greg.
And what was it you said last time that we didn't actually release? What do you get when you cross a theologian and a psychologist? That's us, right?
Yeah. We need to find.
You said it so much better than me.
The answer to that.
Of course, these people will never hear that, but that's okay.
No.
So this is our second attempt at recording our first episode. The first episode, we came out sounding like chipmunks.
This episode is going to be like Empire Strikes Back. This is going to be the key one. This is going to be the pivotal one.
Yes.
One of the only
where
sequels
everything
that
changes.
Yeah. It's like the Road Warrior to Mad Max.
That's true. Han is still encased in carbonite. Mad Max is still fixing his car.
Right, and feeding dog food to his friend.
Yeah.
That was low. I love that. There was nothing in that shotgun. That was low. Wow.
That guy should do the
he's
intro.
Awesome. He's terrible at catching bladed boomerangs. Were those sausages? Yeah, he just cut off his fingers.
Do they have a new Mad Max movie coming out? Is that like Furiosa or something?
I can't get it. It's like John Wick movies. I just can't get enough.
Yeah.
I know it's coming, and it really doesn't even matter.
Yeah, I started watching the John Wick, the fourth one, and I got kind of bored with it.
It's the same theme.
Bit.
I mean, it's really just,
It's just more of the same.
It is, but it's more aerobics. Just a lot of aerobics.
I've met Keanu Reeves, and it's like, I'm just not, he seems like a nice guy, but I'm not super impressed with his acting, so it's like I don't rush to go watch his movies that much.
Well, I feel like it's the same thing. He plays the same character. It's like,
he does, pretty much.
Well, yeah.
When I saw him, they were doing their, they were basically, they were working on a scene, and I don't know, maybe he had so many other scripts that he was working on, but he keeps his script in his back pocket. He just pulls it out, and he's like reading a little bit, does the shot, takes it back out, does the next line.
Right.
And I feel like, I like some of his movies, but I feel like that just kind of typifies his acting style.
Yeah.
It's choppy. And I think Shatner probably is like that too, because his acting style seems kind of choppy.
Yeah, I guess there's certain actors that forgivable that they don't change from character to character, like Nicholas.
Well, like Tom Selleck
or Nicolas Cage. He's basically the same guy. But it's like okay, it's like there's certain guys like. Sometimes it's even Nicholson.
Mel Gibson. We go to a movie to see Mel Gibson be Mel Gibson.
Yeah. And Morgan Freeman. Yeah. When is he not?
Right.
Andrew Dufresne was a friend of mine. You could see that in Shawshank, or you could see that in the Penguin movie.
Yeah.
March of the Penguins.
Yeah, it's same.
And we're coming up on April of the Penguins. That's just past February of the. Right on schedule. The Penguins. As we're recording this.
So our show is not about just rambling about actors. We're actually talking about weird things that happen in the world, strange mysteries, the unexplained, theology, the psychology of the mind. That's why,
Many, many mysteries. And,
yes.
There's many things that we will say that are more of questions for others to look up and to verify and to investigate themselves. There's no expertise here that's so authoritative that you're not beyond reference checking and that sort of thing. Because that's the only, it's like Paul with the Bereans. You gotta be able to check it against the facts that you know and the facts that are verifiable, because the truth, no matter what, is the most supreme source to anything. Nothing that, like, whatever we would say in the moment of even verifiable knowledge that we might have, there's still errors in everything. No matter what science there is something called standard measure of error. So you're always going to have an incompleteness that needs to be double checked, or an error when there's so many words that needs to be verified to make sure that everyone's seeking the same truth, objective truth.
Well, and that's the very nature of reality.
Yeah.
I mean, in Proverbs it says, I'm paraphrasing, but basically it is God's prerogative to conceal a matter and a king's prerogative to seek it out.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do, is seek out these things. I've been reading and investigating a lot in fairies and the fairy faith of the ancient time, or maybe not so ancient, medieval, let's just say medieval times.
Yeah.
It was interesting that people could consider themselves, just a normal Christian, but still believe in the fairy lore. It was like fairies were sort of kind of a middle ground, where they believed, well, these are beings that were created by God, that they actually function in helping keep the world working. So like, you might have a fairy of the forest that guards these trees, a fairy of the water that guards that water, makes the water flow or whatever. And that wasn't inconsistent, they thought, with their belief in the angelic realm. They just thought they were like some lower order in the spiritual realm.
Yeah,
and some were fallen, some were good, some were neutral.
I remember when we were in Ireland listening to the descriptions of, they call them the Fairies, and I think there was a description. I got to double check against my notes, but I believe they were saying that there was the description of fairy. They were not very like wispy and mildly active. They were very much what we would see, we describe in the Bible as an angel. Like, I believe there was one depiction of fairies that Michael the Archangel was considered to be a fairy.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I had it in one of my notes that it was described. They had this that was like a general. It was almost like the way the whole thing was almost like the way Elohim is in. Yeah. That's what their description is. Any spiritual being.
It falls into that
category. But so talking about that, so strange. I was reading this morning. It's in Isaiah. It's Isaiah 21. He's talking in Isaiah, saying, "I had a vision against Babylon." This is crazy, because I was actually thinking about many different 21:2. I see a terrifying vision. I see the betrayer betraying, the destroyer destroying. Then go ahead, you Elamites, and attack and lay siege. I will make an end to all the groaning Babylon cause. Well, taking out the go ahead, the Elamites, look at the sequence. I see a terrifying vision. Okay, something that's coming. Mm-hmm. First, betrayer betrays. Then the destroyer destroys. There's only two, basically named fallen angels in the Bible, right? There's Lucifer, right, and then who?
And then Abaddon.
What is Lucifer?
Or Apollyon.
Right. What is Lucifer? The betrayer.
He is the betrayer.
And what's Abaddon? The destroyer. Yes.
That's
wow. But look, it's not the only sequence where that happens. Because what happens with Jesus, and we're on the brink of Easter here, right? Tomorrow's Good Friday. Mm-hmm. What happens first? First, Jesus is betrayed. Then destroying killed. Takes place. Then he confronts destruction and destruction. So
that's pretty good.
It's really crazy, though. You look at it, it's like this is the sequence. This is what happens. First, betraying, then destroy. But even the Garden of Eden, first, there is a betraying, and then there's destruction. Because creation was functioning without destruction all the way up until that point, right?
Right, and if you look at Noah, the whole people mocked him,
Yes.
which is a betrayal, and then the destruction came and wiped everybody out.
So it's this. I see a terrifying vision.
That's a pattern.
I see the betrayer betraying, the destroyer destroying. But that can't be any coincidence that the only two named fallen angels capable of such things are Lucifer and then the betrayer and the destroyer. It falls so like that's the sequence of things. Which then you kind of think, in our lives when something is weighing on us in a negative or destructive way. First, there's a betrayal, which is temptation. Then there's destruction, which is allowing it to cause either decay or destruction, whatever it is in our lives. But the truth of the sequence of this is very much something that we should look for. As we are not it's like the schemes that we're warned. A scheme is a pattern of deception, pattern of control, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. When Paul says we are not unaware of his schemes, well, this is a scheme. This is a thing that we should be aware of in everything. That it's at the moment we're feeling there's a betrayal of sorts of things that, whether it's our mind, whether it's a temptation, whether it's whatever it is, it's leading to the next step, which is destruction. So at the point that we have to resist kind of or defeat or move away from, whatever it is, betraying process, so that the next step doesn't take hold and then undo.
Yeah, and destroy us. Yeah, that's interesting. And the other thing is, I was talking to a couple people about kind of an epidemic, it seems, in the church, is just these pastors that, they end up cheating on their wives and stuff, and it tears the whole church apart. And it's like, I think if you're going to be in that position, you have to doubly protect yourself, because that's the first place Satan's going to try to knock. It's either financial usually, or it's sexual,
but it's
where it seems like Satan tears a pastor down.
And you're absolutely right. I mean, look, it's the same pattern, though. There's a betraying of sorts, and then followed by destruction.
Yeah.
But then it's so. This morning I was like kind of going through. I was thinking all the different elements or evidences or the different depictions of that throughout Scripture, and then in the large and universal sense, and then also just in the day-to-day, that it follows, small and large. It has larger theological applications than just basic human behavioral applications.
Yeah, that's true. All right, I got a new topic.
Okay.
I want to get your thoughts on this. Have you heard of the concept that Adam and Eve's clothing that God created were used in the ancient times as sort of a symbol of kingship? Have you ever heard of this?
No.
So I can't remember what the text is. It's I think it's in the Talmud or the Targum, and it basically is it talks about how Adam and Eve's clothing were passed down to Seth and then to his line. And Adam was created basically to be the king of the world. I mean, the Bible equates Jesus with Adam, like Jesus is a new Adam, and he's the Messiah, he's the king of the world and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Adam was supposed to be the king. When he fell, God made clothing for him.
Yep.
The clothing got passed down until it gets to Noah. On the ark, Noah and his family, not only is he the last man in his family, he's really the king of the world at that point, legitimately. Mm-hmm. I mean, even though he was legitimate and everybody mocked him before that, he was legitimately the king of the world afterwards. And so everybody else looked at him as he's the leader, right? So was it Ham I think it was Ham that went in, and it said that he unclothed Noah and saw his nakedness.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, that makes a totally different story.
Oh, I see.
If he's stealing, and then why did Noah curse Canaan and not Ham?
Yeah.
Because Canaan, he was trying to set him up to be the king of the world, And he's like, no, that's not going to happen. Then you go and you look, there are some, I've read about in the story, and I don't know if it's exactly the case, but I don't know if this is exactly tied in. This is just me speculating here. But the story of Inmerkar and the king of Arata, there was some dialogue in that, and some of that's lost and we can't read the whole thing.
Right.
But there's some dialogue about clothing, and basically Inmerkar is writing to Utnapishtim, who is the Babylonian version of, or the Akkadian version of Noah.
Yeah.
And there's some talk about him wanting clothing from him, and he's going to go and invade and attack. Well, if you look at Inmerkar, if he's the same as Nimrod, and Nimrod is a descendant of Canaan, then it's like, there it's all back to that whole fighting over these clothes. And I think Indiana Jones needs to seek these clothes in the next.
That's kind of cool. Yeah, it does make sense. That I like that. Because this was God's. Yeah, you're right. It was his remediation for a lot of things. Certainly that was like the skins were to cover them. The skins were also metaphorical, but also a matter of justice. And then also when you took the skins, assuming they weren't shed from a living animal, that something had to perish as a result of them, in order to clothe them. Yeah, and to not purify them, redeem them of sin. The one thing that like Dr. Heiser though talks about that occurrence with Noah's sons, when you uncover, he said that uncovering was usually the pre-step to a sexual action. So the uncovering was not, and it was not uncovering Noah, but he was uncovering who was in Noah's bed with him. And so the idea was that Canaan was going to, or whoever it was has entered his father's bed, and not with intent of doing something to his father's wife. And in doing so, then the seeds, who would come from the offspring of that.
Yeah, and again, that's still trying to establish his own line as being the ruler of everything. Yeah. It's weird because it's like there weren't that many people left. So what's the point? But then again, I watched a video one time where they were talking about the expansion from 8 people into multiple groups of people and how fast that could actually happen.
Right.
And it's like, that's pretty incredible that you could really have thousands of people in a very short period of time.
Right.
In 25, 30 years or something like that, and all of a sudden you're really, creating a society again.
And you wonder, you kind of like wonder if there's those theories that the way the Earth was at certain points, atmospherically, it was running like almost optimally, so that you did have large creatures that probably grew to be large very quickly.
Yeah, because of all the oxygen.
And everything, and maybe that also produced longer life periods for these guys are living to 100 and 200 and 300 years, right? And then but also there's an old word called fecundity, very overly productive, and I feel like that fecundity I think it's fecund fecundity.
Yeah,
but that word right there, that fecundity, may have been at an optimal level. One of the things that we are cautioned and blessed with in Scripture is to live optimally. And what is that? Well, full of the Spirit, not full of the flesh. Full of the mind of Christ, not full of the mind of man. Those things are set. Those things are in place, so we're living optimally, right?
Right.
And in doing so, if we were to live optimally, we would the fruits of that would be obvious optimally as well. Well, what would that be? Right. Well, I can't help but think that at the time of Noah, in the time of Adam, in the time of when God's fingerprints were still directly on the people that He made, those were when they were existing optimally. And when he said go, fruitful and multiply, that was probably the most optimal time where let's can't hesitate. Things are about to explode. I mean, in Let There Be Light at the beginning and the big, the where everything started. You got to go back. I imagine there are theories that it went into place immediately, could have, But even if it did, if it took a long time for it to go in, it still moved optimally in such a way that everything was, precision, right? And so you got to look at what you're talking about there. That it's fully possible that expansion could happen if everyone was living optimally.
Yeah, very rapidly. Yeah. And then you got all of a sudden, Nimrod's like, wait a minute, I want to gather all these people together so that I can control them.
I can control them, yep.
Yeah, and I read a book once.
That was the time of
I read this book once called T.O.B., and it was about, kind of that, well, I think it was kind of about that whole thing with Nimrod and everything, basically trying to enslave the whole world, and the spirit of Nimrod just keeps coming back again and again, like we see it with Hitler, we saw it with Napoleon, with Alexander the Great. There's some kind of a weird desire that everybody wants to
rule the world. I'm having fears with my tears. But yeah, I think I know the book. But in that, you're right, that there is this, it's a constant, it's almost like Nietzsche called it eternal recurrence. It's something that doesn't matter the generation, it's going to be there. And and it is about enslaving man and essentially taking them away from God, putting the distance there, and making, the finite and the mortal a matter of control, and ignoring the eternal and the just, the good.
Well, when you look at like the book of Enoch and you read how, I think it was Semyaza was the demon in the book, and the basic idea was they were going to come and corrupt humanity and make it impossible for, apparently the rebellion in heaven had already happened. They were going to come and corrupt humanity so that God couldn't redeem humanity. And everything that the demons who came down on Mount Hermon in the book of Enoch taught to humankind was to destroy themselves. Warfare, how to make weapons, makeup, how to induce lust, cutting of roots and sorceries, how to contact the netherworld when God was like, no, that's not what, you're not supposed to be doing that. Every last thing was something that they taught man to do. And then you hear people like, well, the ultimate goal of Freemasonry or the what are the steps of the Shriners and all that you get into, and they'll say, well, Lucifer was the light bringer. He brought us light so that we wouldn't be in darkness. He really wasn't a bad guy. And it's like, no, every single thing that they taught was so that we could destroy ourselves quicker, so that we would be wiped out, so that God would be forced to take them back into their place that they were before they fell.
Yeah, it's relying.
And that's what all this is about.
It's to rely on man and not on God. It's for man to rely on man, his own destruction, and not to rely on God.
When Jesus came and he lived the perfect sinless life, and he died and rose again. Basically what happened was the original game plan couldn't work. The whole thing was to try to stop the Messiah from being born. Now it's just kill off as many people as we can possibly kill off before the end, and enslave everybody and make them work for us. And it just, you see it again and again. All these petty dictators that pop up, it's always their same playbook. Cult leaders. It always seems to be their playbook too.
Oh yeah, control happens. It's all the same method.
Yeah.
But it's like it has different ornamentation and different costumery. It's really the same. So I might have to. I think I have to wrap up here.
That's all right.
wait.
We got a good half hour.
So I have,
and
I'm in Isaiah 21. We might have an end thing here.
okay.
All right, listen to this. So this is Isaiah 21, 11, and 12. It says, Watchmen, how much longer until morning? When will the night be over? Watchman replies, morning is coming. Night will soon return. Wish to ask again. Come back.
Nice.
That could be our closing thing.
That's a good close.
Isn't that cool? Morning is coming.
Listen.
But the night will still return. I love that.
That's a good one. All right, people, you've been listening to the Hidden Citadel. This is our first premiere episode. Please check back with us. Hopefully, we'll get more of these out there, and they might be longer next time. But thank you for listening, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.
Morning is coming. The night will soon return. Hidden Citadel.